Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. I'm Mark Steyn, in for Tucker, who's taking a European Union-length Christmas break, which is revoltingly un-American of him. Today was the deadline for the Department of Justice to turn over requested information about anti-Trump text messages to the Senate Judiciary Committee. The text messages were sent by former Robert Mueller team member Peter Strzok and are a powerful sign that Mueller's probe and other FBI investigations could be tainted by political bias. Senator Chuck Grassley has demanded that the DOJ explain both when it found the messages and how it has reacted to them. Will that information be handed over? So far, it apparently hasn't been, but the DOJ and FBI have repeatedly demonstrated that they consider these requests from Congress to be mere suggestions at best. Richard Goodstein advised Hillary Clinton's campaign in both 2008 and 2016. Richard, it's not a small thing when the people's representatives get flipped the finger by rogue law enforcement agencies, is it?
Mark, can I just say, you introduced me as a Hillary person. It must have really hurt when the Gallup poll said again that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were the most admired man and woman in the world. But let me answer your question.
I'll give you that one. On the entire planet.
Yeah, that was the question.
If only the Electoral College included the jungles of Papua New Guinea,
exactly,
she'd be sitting in the Oval Office
My
today.
sentiments precisely.
I'll give you that one in the spirit of New Year comedy.
Look, this whole business about Peter Strzok's text messages is yet another distraction. Donald Trump should thank his lucky stars that the FBI existed. He would not be in the White House but for James Comey having given his press conference on July 5th, sent that letter on October 28th, and making no reference whatsoever to what the intelligence community knew, which was that the Russians were trying to help Trump win. Nothing, not a word. So for him and, frankly, his party members now to be screaming bloody murder about the FBI, it's just a bit much.
No, well, wait a minute. This guy Strzok, for example, he's got Senator Grassley has read this text message from Peter Strzok, who's a senior counterintelligence guy, even though he writes text messages to his sweetheart like a sixth-grade schoolgirl. It is a serious situation when the plain meaning of the text suggests that in Andrew McCabe's office, the number 2 FBI guy's office, they are talking about how to, in effect, interfere with the election to ensure that Trump doesn't become president. That would be bad if they were doing it to Hillary. It would be bad if they were doing it to Jill Stein. Doesn't that require an answer from these guys?
They were saying that at a time when the FBI was putting its weight on the scales in favor of Donald Trump. Seriously, this is perverse. I understand, again, the walls are kind of closing in on Donald Trump with the Flynn plea, with the Papadopoulos plea. No. And seriously, look, Mark, I would say this. You know who said really bad things about Donald Trump? Marco Rubio said he was a con artist. Ted Cruz said he was utterly amoral and a pathological liar. Peter Strzok wasn't unique.
And Trump said Ted Cruz's father was on the grassy knoll with Lee Harvey Oswald. That's just part of the give and take of politics.
Well,
put that to one side. What we're talking about here are policemen. We're talking about here, if Trump wants to accuse Cruz's father of being on the grassy knoll, that's one thing. When policemen are, as you put it, putting their thumb on the scale, that's quite another matter.
Well, except it's belied by the fact that what the FBI ultimately did, they put its weight, the Comey press conference, the Comey letter, the non-disclosure of what the intelligence community knew about what the Russians were doing to help Trump. That's basically Trump's everything. That supersedes anything that Peter Strzok could have possibly done. Incidentally, when Peter Strzok was doing interviews, Mark, he had other people there in the FBI. He didn't have any kind of solo opportunity to kind of move things one way or the other. Did he like Trump? No. A lot of people didn't.
You said a fascinating thing there, Richard. What the Russians were doing to help Trump. What were they doing?
I'll tell you, 4 things, keep in mind.
Yeah.
They said to Donald Trump Jr., we can help you. Donald Trump Jr. said, love it, let's see it. And then guess what? The Russians did help through WikiLeaks, and Donald Trump 100 times during the campaign made reference to WikiLeaks and urged them to do more, to basically steal from Hillary Clinton's computer. And then, of course, all the people in the Trump orbit lied about it.
Nobody had to steal from any Democrats. John Podesta's password was password with a 0 for where the O should be. So John Podesta and Hillary Clinton might as well have left their emails on top of a payphone in Grand Central Station. You don't have to steal them.
That's like saying that the Watergate break-in would not have happened had that lock been a bit more secure, that those burglars couldn't have quite cracked it had there had been a better lock. Come on, it was theft. It was theft.
Come on here, Richard. We hear this thing, they may have hacked into voting machines. You can't hack into something that isn't connected to the internet. That's like hacking into a cinnamon bun. You can't do it.
I totally agree that we right now don't have evidence about the voting machines. But here's what we do have evidence of. We know that there's some crackpot from North Carolina came up to Washington, D.C. with a rifle because there was some loony thing that was put out by the Russians about a child slavery ring in a pizza place, and he was prepared to shoot people. You think people might be prepared to vote differently? This guy was prepared to shoot people because of what he read on the internet.
Come on, we had a Bernie Sanders guy shooting up the congressional baseball-playing Republicans. We have that's not on Bernie Sanders. Bernie is one of my neighbors in northern New England, and I think he's a kook, but I don't think he incentivizes people to murder. You can't make that connection.
You're downplaying the significance of what was put out on the internet by the Russians, okay? I'm saying the point I made was Exhibit A. That was something that was specifically done by the Russians, and a guy was prepared to travel hundreds of miles to shoot people. That suggests to me that somebody may be able to have their vote influenced. That's all.
Well, that's interesting to hear from campaign officials, because if that guy Putin can swing an election for 100 grand, you guys are out of business, Richard, because nobody needs to pay millions to the big fancy pants consultants when 100 grand to some guy in Moscow can swing the election for you.
Let me just, two things, Mark. We will see when the Podesta emails came out an hour after Access Hollywood. Was that a coincidence, or was there some collaboration? And we will see when all these swing voters in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania were targeted by Russians. Was that all done by Russians, or were there any Americans that were involved? Those are the questions that Mueller, I bet, will get to the bottom of, and I don't think the answer will reflect well on the Trump campaign.
As I said, Richard, that the whole consultant industrial complex has gone up in smoke if some rinky-dink Ruski over in Moscow could just swing it for you. It is